So the free agents we did sign, the three main takeaways that Big Blue View pointed out were short-term front-loaded contracts, spending big on defense, undervalued depth signings, which, I don't think they're very flashy or splashy, these signings, but they address positions of need with players who I think they might have probably overpaid for a little bit, but will provide you with reasonable value. Are they going to fulfill the value of their contract? Probably not, but it's not going to be like a bust. I think if you look back at the Alec Ogletree trade, you'll be like, well, we probably lost that trade. Like, it didn't really pan out. But I don't see that happening with these players. So the first off is Panthers corner James Bradberry, who was kind of surprised that he was actually signed by the Giants, even though he was drafted by Gettleman in the second round in 2016. He started every game he played for the Panthers and tied Luke Kuechly with a team-high 12 passes defended. He's the fourth consecutive season he led the Panthers in passes defended. Next Gen Stats says that Bradberry has been one of the most consistent corners at creating tight windows with a separation of less than 1. I assume that means yard since the entering the NFL in 2016. So no one's describing him as a lockdown corner, but he does not provide a lot of room to complete a pass. It's like, well, I prefer that than, the 3 yards of separation that pretty much everyone in the secondary last year was giving opposing receivers. His 29% of targets trails only Casey Hayward and Darius Slay, both at 31% in tight window target rate in that span. I mean, who comes up with these fucking statistics, right, dude? Jesus. But still, it's good company. Casey Hayward and Darius Slay. I know I just talk shit about Slay, but I mean, historically, Slay has been good. I just think he's peaked. And he's now on the slippity slide downhill. PFF said that James Bradberry's highest graded season came to his rookie year with a 69.5. Best game of his career came in week 1 of 2019 with a 91.7 coverage grade, interception, and pass breakup of 4 targets. So PFF break out the umbrellas because they love to rain on the parade with their fucking weird grades. I'll tell you this. We basically followed PFF's grades when we spent big last go around 2016. Snacks Harrison was ranked the highest interior defensive lineman. We signed him. Jackrabbit had one of the highest PFF grades of that free agent class. We signed him. Olivier Vernon, PFF was gushing over him because of his monster second half. We signed him. What happens? I mean, we traded 2 and we released 1 we probably should have traded him and we didn't get anything back for him. Vernon just got released by the Browns and fucking Snacks just got released by the Lions. And who knows what's going to happen with Jenkins. Is he going back to the Saints? I don't know. I think I heard that he was going back to the Saints, but he fits right in there in New Orleans. I don't know how anyone, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. It just seems like a good fit. Don't read too deep into that shit. And this is the guy that I probably like the most out of all the signings that we had in free agency, Blake Martinez. I was huge and high on this guy out of Stanford in 2016. I thought the Giants should have drafted him and he would have provided the spark in the interior at the linebacker position that we haven't had since Antonio Pierce, the stability, the consistency. He's 6'2", 237. They signed him for 3 years, $30.7 million, which that's the common theme when you keep seeing with these free agent signings. Not a lot of 5-year deals, 4-year deals being handed out. It's like 3 years seems to be the max. And I think that's the point is, and it really, I think it focuses around Saquon. It's like Saquon is going to be a free agent probably in after 2021 or in 2021. Wait, 2018, 2019, 2021. So after the 2021 season, he's a free agent. So if you're thinking, if you're signing these free agents for 3 years, so it's 2020, 2021, which is the last year of Saquon's contract, and then most likely they're going to probably try and put the tag on Saquon if they can't work out a long-term deal in 2022. From what I've heard from all these beat reporters, and I know you can't like trust them as far as you can throw them or whatever, because they'll say whatever they want to get, clicks and whatever. But it feels like they're really going to try and make Saquon the face of the franchise and make him a lifelong Giant. And they should. I wish they would. Because it's not the same situation as Odell. I mean, even take a look at Odell. I mean, Odell was considered problematic, a distraction, blah, blah, and they still threw a lot of money at him, and he still came back that season and still was a circus act. I mean, it didn't help he got hurt and was injured a lot of the time, but you don't see that happening with Saquon. So I think they're more than willing to shell out dollars for him. But I don't know that they'll get it worked out right away. It seems like it's going to be a Leonard Williams situation, so they'll probably have to tag him in 2022. So that's why you're seeing these 3-year contracts, because in Gettleman's eyes, it's like, in Gettleman's eyes, he thinks it's going to be 3 years where they can be a contender while they still have Saquon. So why sign guys for 5 years when it's like it's probably going to all blow up after 3 years if it doesn't work out? But the thing is, like, Gettleman's, this is the make or break year for Gettleman. But then it's, we keep going back to this. Like, so it's playoffs or bust? Like, if he goes 9-7 and misses the playoffs, are we ditching him? I think if we went 8 or 9-7, a lot of people would be like, it's a step in the right direction. It's better than we've been. We haven't been 8 or 9-7 with the exception of 2016. So it's like, I don't know how much leash they're going to give him. Obviously, if he has a losing record, if he goes 7-9, I don't know. Anyway, Blake Martinez. This is the dude that I really liked. I wanted the Giants to draft in 2016. They didn't. I was pissed. He led the Packers in tackles each of the last 3 years. Started every single one of the Packers' 50 regular season games and postseason games. He had a pretty awesome quote about Patrick Graham. He gave some insight because Patrick Graham was the linebackers coach in Green Bay. So he coached Blake Martinez and the next guy we're going to talk about, Kyler Fackrell. But this is a quote from Blake Martinez. Just from understanding Pat and what he is looking for and how he put forth certain things in Coach Patine's defense, I think it's just the aggressive nature. Everyone working together, everyone on the same page, everyone communicating, everyone is going to know exactly where to be and what to do on every given call. That's not going to be much, if any, mental errors at all. There's not going to be much, if any, mental errors at all. I know he stressed that a bunch. It almost sounds like Joe Judge right there. I read it and I think Joe Judge. So I think that's a really good fit. And so that's why I think Graham wanted Fackrell as well, because Fackrell had one of his best years with Graham as the linebackers coach. He's only 28. And when Graham was the the LB coach with Green Bay, Fackrell had his most productive season, played in all 16 games, 7 starts, led the Packers with 10.5 sacks while contributing career-high 57 tackles. So maybe Graham can bring that out of him again. His 16.1% pressure rate on 193 rushes last season was better than Za'Darius and Preston Smith, per Next Gen Stats. Fackrell would have been third on Giants with 35 disruptions last year, and that was on 193 pass rush snaps. One less than Lorenzo Carter, who had 36 disruptions on 346 pass rush snaps. Yeah. So, that's a great signing. And that was only the 1-year contract, $4.6 million. Very low risk, but could prove very valuable. This is a signing that I'm a little on the fence about, but I could see it possibly working. Titans running back Dion Lewis. He was with Judge and the Patriots for those Super Bowls, played in 2 Super Bowls, played in all 16 regular season games for the 3rd consecutive season. 49ers tight end Levine Toilolo. 6'8", 268. Played in 2 Super Bowls, one with the Niners last year and then one with the Falcons, I guess when they lost to the Patriots. That's a big-ass target. And I think with the Giants signing Levine Toilolo and bringing back Eric Tomlinson and having Caden Smith, I think they have one other tight end. They have like 6 tight ends on the roster or signed to contracts right now. So what does that mean for Evan Ingram? We'll get to that in a little bit. Redskins quarterback Colt McCoy signed for a year, $2.25 million. He's the only quarterback from the 2010 NFL draft class who's currently active, which 2010 does not feel that long ago, but it's 10 years ago. It's been a decade. But still very interesting that there's not one guy outside of McCoy who's active. He was the only quarterback in college to win at least 10 or more games in each of his 4 seasons, and he finished his collegiate career owning 47 school records. So I know that's college football, blah, blah, but he's showed up in a couple games and stunned some people. So a valuable backup. I guess did he play for Dallas too? Jason Garrett at one point? Probably, maybe not. I don't hate it. 1 year, 2.25. I don't hate it. But I would have liked to see us maybe throw a little money at someone who's had more consistent starting experience. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. We talked about Ebner. Next on the list is Titans D tackle Austin Johnson, 6'4", 314. And I guess he did not miss a game in any of the previous 3 seasons. So that seems to be another running theme among the guys that we signed as well, is that they just don't miss games. The best ability is availability. And, the Giants, you can see when they have down seasons, it's usually when the injury bug hits. So a lot of these guys, they don't get injured, and that's great. But I think the main takeaway with this guy is that he doesn't put up like crazy stats. I think he's 25, 26, but he played at Penn State. And I think Saquon, there's that connection with Saquon, went to Penn State. And I think maybe there's a connection there where he said, you got to get this guy. He's being underused in Tennessee and he'd be an asset here. But what does that mean? You franchise tag Leonard Williams. You bring in Austin Johnson. It's getting kind of crowded along that defensive line because you also have BJ Hill, Dalvin Tomlinson, Dexter Lawrence. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys plus McIntosh, and I guess Chris Slayton, is still on the ball club. So you got a lot of depth along the defensive line, and you can probably rotate them in and out, which is great. But does that also mean that one of those pieces gets traded? And so that's what we're going to get to in a little bit when we talk about the draft. Could there be one of these defensive linemen on the block? And then finally, Cowboys tackle Cam Fleming. He's a guy who played with the Patriots and the Cowboys. So it's like he's got the familiarity with Jason Garrett, our new offensive coordinator, and our new offensive line coach, who was the Cowboys line coach, Mark Colombo. He was also played with the Patriots where Joe Judge was. So I feel like Joe Judge and Jason Garrett and Mark Colombo arrived at the same time in the same room for a meeting, and they just all looked at each other and they just said, Cam Fleming? And then it was just like, boom, pull the trigger. Like, we all know this guy. We all know he's a tackle. Let's just sign him, scoop him up. So I guess the initial reports would be, first 4 seasons was the Patriots. He actually started 2 Super Bowls and played very well. And now the Giants have both starting tackles from the Patriots Super Bowl loss to the Eagles. Nate Solder and Cam Fleming. So 6'5", 320. 3 Super Bowl appearances. 1 year, $3.5 million. That's a good deal. I mean, it's probably right in line with Mike Remmer's money. I guess the initial reports are that Fleming will compete for the starting tackle position, but I mean, who's he competing with? Remmer's left. I guess Nick Gates would be the guy. I guess Gates didn't play that poorly down the stretch. He actually got some decent grades, not anything stellar, but that should be an interesting competition.